Hello everyone, my name is Preethy Joseph and I am one of the AAA tutors working with Phoenix Financial Training. In this video, we'll be covering all to do with the exam tips and how you need to approach your exam paper for AAA paper for this March 2021 sitting. Starting with giving you an idea about the exam structure, you have section A and you have section B of the paper. Section A is a case study. It is a 50-mark question, and this is the only question that you have professional marks involved. In section A of your paper, these are all the possible topics that can be tested in section A, where you have business risk, you have audit risk, additional informations, some bit of audit procedures, and definitely ethical issues along with safeguards. If you're looking at how you need to approach each of these questions, please keep in mind in terms of a business risk question, you're looking for identifying the risks from the given scenario and then telling me what will be the impact in the given company or whatever the company under consideration. When we talk about the impact, you should say how has it adversely impacted the operations, leading to some cash flow impact, liquidity issues, or profits going down. That is where we'll be talking about business risks. Okay, you will always focus from 2 marks per point times the number of marks allocated for it. Whereas audit risk or risk of material misstatement, there is a fixed structure to that where you start with materiality, 1 mark, telling the standard, as per the standard, what you need to do, what the client should be following within the particular standard, and then telling the risk in terms of what the client may have not followed, leading to some kind of a financial reporting fraud, like an overstatement or an understatement of either your account balance or your class of transaction. Please keep in mind you have to talk about both the impacts, the asset as well as the P&L impact. That means the SOFP as well as the P&L impact. Don't just give either one of them. That's a structure for audit risk. If there are financial information, like they've given you a whole extract of the whole FS, then means the SOFP and the P&L, I would expect them to do a bit of analytical procedures where they will ask you to calculate some ratios, and within the ratios, you need to discuss the movements of the numbers as well as part of audit risk. Additional informations are like, other than what is given to you in the given scenario, what are the other things that you would like to have access to as an auditor, which is not there in the scenario. Max around 5 marks to 8 marks in the exam. Audit procedures, guys, from the audit risk that you have identified, maybe 1 or 2 account balances or class or transaction the examiner may pick up, and then they will ask you to design audit procedures, like, for example, audit procedures on goodwill or audit procedures on, let's say, impairment of a particular asset, or it can be revaluation of PPE. It can be anything that we're talking about. Then you have ethical issues. If you see ethical issues is tested in section A of the paper, as well as it can be tested in section B of the paper as well. In section A of the paper, it is a very small amount of marks allocated to it, so maximum 6 to 8 marks. But in section B of the paper, it will be a full-blown 25-marker question. Again, they may put something else in between in that question, so it's not necessarily the full 25 marks will be on ethical. There can be on other aspects as well. Professional marks is there for section A of your paper, guys. Keep that in mind, where you have your structure, where to, from, date, subject, giving me an intro and a conclusion, another 1 mark, giving me subheadings, another 1 mark, and then last 1 mark is for the clarity of your explanation. Moving on then to section B of your paper, there are 3 possible questions that can come for you. Number 1, what are the matters to be considered at the completion stage of external auditing? As part of that, they may ask you audit evidences, or they may ask you even audit report impact, or both of them together as well. When we look at audit matters to be considered at the completion stage, the structure of your answer will be exactly the same as your audit risk style of answering, where you give your materiality, talk about the standard, talk about the risk. Yeah, but along with that, you will have to talk about evidences. Along with that, maybe even audit report, read the requirement of the question for you to be able to understand what is expected of you as a student. Then, as I mentioned earlier, ethical professional quality issues. So it won't be focusing mainly on ethical, it'll be mainly on professional issues, guys. Quality issues. So if you're looking at professional and quality issues, these 2 are specifically in line with ISRs. As per the international standards of auditing, how are you supposed to behave? How are you supposed to do your audit? And have you done that or not is what you need to check for in the given scenarios. There are other assurance engagement questions where they'll ask you matters to be considered. They may ask you additional procedures revolving around, or no, not additional, the procedures that you will want to do in this particular other assurance engagements. There are 5 of them, which is as follows. I mean, it can be review engagement, due diligence, PFI, social environmental information, and forensics. When we talk about what can come for this particular sitting, I mean, you can expect prospective financial informations to come, maybe even due diligence to come. Either one of these two can come. There's a higher probability for it to come in the exam for this particular sitting. But doesn't mean that the examiner cannot test the others. Like forensic, if he wants, he can put a small part of it in section A of the paper as well. So always be prepared for all of them. Don't do selective studying when you're choosing what you need to be prepared for. In terms of your structure now, how do you need to go and start writing your answers? When the examiner says your time starts now, that means your 3 hours starts, please do not even waste time to do section A of the paper. Go straight into section B of the paper. Start off with the 2 questions, attempting whichever you're comfortable with first. Do that question first. Finish off section B. Each of the question is 45 minutes you should be allocating for each question. So let's say you start with question number 3, you take 45 minutes, stop. Yeah, whatever, wherever you have reached, just stop, move on to question number 2, take 45 minutes, stop. If you still have lots to finish, leave space, move on straight to question number 1. Please keep in mind, AAA paper is a time pressured exam. There is very low chance that you will actually finish the paper given the time pressure that we are in. If you finish, very good for you. But if you don't, that's what you need to focus on to be able to get the minimum passes in each and every part of the question. Please don't start with section A, and especially don't start with audit risk, because it eats a lot of your time. You would have done questions by now, you would have seen that it takes a lot of your time and strength to attempt audit risk questions. Yeah, it is a lot. So audit risk is something that you should be doing actually the right at the end and not in the beginning, because you will just keep writing and writing and writing, and you won't even realize that the time is actually taken away. You will be spending so much amount of time in that particular part of the question, and therefore it will compromise your time on the other parts of the question. So start with section B first, please. Yeah, start with either of the question, whichever you feel comfortable with. Start with question 2, question 3, it doesn't matter. Get that done. 45 minutes, that is 1.5 hours. You should be done with section B of the paper. Then move on to section A of your paper. When you start section A of your paper, start with to, from, date, subject, introduction, and then I would want you to go from down to up. Yeah, don't start with audit risk again, because then again the tendency is you will miss out the other parts. Start with, let's say for example in this case, start with part D of the question or part E of the question, ethical issues. Get that out of the way, move on to audit procedures, get that out of the way. The last thing that you should be attempting is audit risk. But to be able to execute this plan rightly, you need to make sure you stick to the time. When you start doing audit risk, which is the last thing, you can keep writing till the invigilator says your time stops now. Yeah, you're done with the exam, because you can just keep writing as many as you can. You can just keep writing as many you want. Because if you do that structure in the beginning, then it will eat up your time to do the other parts of the question. That is why I said keep audit risk at the end. You're very comfortable with it. You know the structure of it. You can just keep writing till the very end. So make sure you start with section B of the paper, do the 2 questions, come to section A, do the format, to, from, date, subject, give me the introduction, then start off with let's say ethical issues first, because that's the easy part. Then come to audit procedures, get that out of the way. Then come to audit risk. If there is business risk, do business risk, and then come to audit risk. If no business risk, then go straight into audit risk, and then keep writing till the time finishes for you. All okay? And this should be something that you remind yourself before you go into the exam hall, because I know personally students have gone into the exam hall attempting audit risk first, and they just keep writing because they know so much, and they realize that 2 hours is already down, or 1.5 hours is already down, and they haven't done the other parts to the question, and they just start rushing up. And because of the rush, stress builds in, and therefore you just start forgetting things that you even know. Yeah, so that's why I said When the examiner says, hey, start now, just start from section B. Don't even look at section A. Turn immediately section B, look at the 2 questions, start attempting the questions, then come to section A and then look through it. All okay? Thank you all very much for watching this video, and all the very best, guys, for your AAA exam for the March 2021 sitting. Take care.